There is another world beneath our feet. Not a metaphor, literally. On every continent, in different rock formations, across different eras, people went underground and built cities down there. Not cellars, not basements, full cities, with streets, chambers, ventilation systems, water supplies, and space for tens of thousands of people. Official history explains most of them. Shelter from enemies, food storage, religious ritual. Logical, convincing. In most cases, probably true. Today, 7 of those cities. Every one is real. Every one is documented. And every one raises a question that official science either answers vaguely or doesn't answer at all. Let's start with the city that held 50,000 people and left behind not a single written record of its construction. Cappadocia, Central Turkey, 1963. A local man is repairing a wall in his house. Behind the wall, empty space. He breaks through and finds a corridor. The corridor goes down, deep down. That's how Derinkuyu was rediscovered. 18 levels, 200 feet deep. Living quarters, kitchens, storage rooms, stables, churches, schools, wine presses, wells, ventilation shafts piercing all 18 levels and opening at the surface. A water system designed so that an attacker who broke through to the upper levels couldn't poison the water supply on the lower ones. Researchers estimate that between 20 and 50,000 people, along with their livestock and months of provisions, could live in Derinkuyu simultaneously. The official explanation? Built by early Christians in the 1st centuries AD to hide from persecution. Problem 1. The volume of work. Volcanic tuff is soft rock, that's true, but several 100,000 cubic meters of stone were removed from Derinkuyu. Where did it go? There are no spoil heaps of that scale near the site. The rock essentially vanished. Problem 2. The engineering complexity. Ventilation shafts that pierce 200 feet of rock and exit precisely at the surface aren't the work of frightened people with pickaxes. That requires advanced calculation, blueprints, a working knowledge of geology. Problem 3. The depth. If the goal is to hide from an enemy, 3 or 4 levels is enough. Roll a circular stone disc across the entrance and wait. Why dig down 18 levels? From the lowest levels of Derinkuyu, a tunnel runs 6 miles to the neighboring underground city of Kaimakli. 6 miles of underground passage, without a single mention in any historical document. Zhejiang Province, China, 1992. A farmer named Wu Anai decides to drain a pond near his village. When the water is pumped out, a system of man-made caves opens up beneath it. 24 enormous chambers carved from solid sandstone. Each chamber is dozens of feet wide and long, with ceilings reaching up to 100 feet high. The ceilings are supported by columns carved directly from the living rock. Total volume of rock removed? Approximately 1 million cubic meters. That's the first and most pressing question. Where did the rock go? 1 million cubic meters of stone is mountains of rubble, the kind that should be visible for miles. There's nothing of the sort near the village. The rock is simply gone. Second question, how was it done? The walls of the chambers are covered in parallel grooves, tool marks. The grooves are even, uniform in depth, running at a consistent angle across every surface. A mining engineer with 20 years in the industry said directly, the only place he had seen marks like these was on the walls of tunnels drilled by mechanical boring machines. Official dating, approximately 2,000 years ago, a period when China had no mechanical stone-cutting equipment capable of work at this scale. Third question, why is there no mention of this anywhere in written records? Chinese civilization kept extraordinarily detailed chronicles for thousands of years. In all of that written history, not a single line about the Longyu Caves. The elderly locals say the caves have always been there, that no one built them. Northern Ethiopia, 8,600 feet above sea level. 11 monolithic churches carved directly into solid rock, not built from stone, carved out of a basalt plateau, from the top down. The largest, the Church of St. George, known as Beta Georgis, is a perfect cube, 100 feet on each side, sunk 100 feet into the ground. Around the cube runs a trench of equal depth, separating it completely from the surrounding rock. The official account, built in the 12th century on the orders of King Lalibela, completed in 24 years. Modern engineers have done the math. To carve all 11 churches out of basalt in 24 years, workers would have needed to remove a daily volume of rock physically incompatible with hand tools. Basalt isn't soft volcanic tuff. It doesn't yield to copper chisels. British researcher David Buxton conducted a structural engineering analysis in 2008. His conclusion: using 12th century technology, building Lalibela would have taken not 24 years, but several centuries. How Lalibela was built in the claimed timeframe, engineering science cannot answer. Most people know Petra as the rose-red city carved into the cliffs of southern Jordan, the treasury, the monastery, the street of facades. It's one of the most visited archaeological sites on Earth. What most people don't know is that Petra extends underground. Beneath the visible carved city, geophysical surveys have identified an extensive network of subsurface chambers and tunnels. The Nabatean builders who created Petra between roughly 400 BC and 100 AD were among the most sophisticated hydraulic engineers of the ancient world, and much of their engineering was deliberately hidden below the surface. A team from Brown University, using ground-penetrating radar in 2016, found a large monument buried beneath the southern part of the site, a platform larger than an Olympic swimming pool, covered by about 2.5 feet of soil and sand, apparently hidden intentionally. No one knew it was there. Systematic survey of what lies beneath Petra's surface has barely begun. The visible carved city, the part that draws millions of tourists every year, may be only a fraction of what was actually built. The Nabateans were meticulous record keepers of their water systems. They were far less forthcoming about what lay underground. The Nazca Plateau, Peru. Everyone has heard of the Nazca Lines, the enormous figures drawn on the plateau's surface. But beneath the plateau, there is another system, less famous and considerably more puzzling. The Puquios, underground spiral aqueducts that descend into the rock and bring water to the surface through spiral shafts. There are about 36 of them in the region. In 2016, Italian researcher Rosa Lassaponara analyzed the Puquios using satellite imagery. Her conclusion was unexpected. The spiral shafts are oriented specifically to capture wind and channel it downward, generating air pressure that forces water up through the channels. These aren't simply aqueducts. This is a hydraulic system that uses atmospheric pressure. A system like this requires an accurate understanding of fluid and gas physics, knowledge that wasn't formally established in Europe until the 17th century. The Nazca culture built this 1,500 years before that. Nevşehir, Central Turkey, 2013. Construction work in the city center. Workers are demolishing old buildings. An excavator removes soil and breaks through into empty space below. Beneath the center of Nevşehir, another underground city. Preliminary estimates from researchers suggest it may be larger than Derinkuyu, the largest previously known. The mapped underground structures cover approximately 1.5 square miles. Estimated depth, more than 7 stories. Systems of tunnels, chambers, water supply infrastructure. More than 10 years have passed since the discovery. Systematic excavation has not been completed. The delay has been attributed to the complexity of conducting archaeological work directly beneath a living city. Buildings, utilities, and Private property sit above the site, making access and excavation legally and logistically complicated. What's unusual is that discoveries like this are typically celebrated as major tourism opportunities in the region. Derinkuyu draws hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. Whatever has been found beneath Nevşehir has generated comparatively little public information. The full picture of what lies under Nevşehir's streets is still coming into focus. Santorini Island, Greece. In 1967, Greek archaeologist Spiridon Marinatos begins excavating beneath a layer of volcanic ash on the southern tip of the island. Under the ash, a city. Multi-story buildings of cut stone, streets with drainage systems, separate sewer lines for rainwater and for household waste, frescoes on the walls preserved in near-perfect condition, furniture, pottery, food stores. Age, approximately 3,600 years. There are no human remains in the city. Not one. At Pompeii, buried by Vesuvius, archaeologists found thousands of people who didn't make it out in time. At Akrotiri, nobody. The population of several thousand people left before the eruption, all of them, taking their valuables because no jewelry or precious objects have been found either. This means the residents knew the eruption was coming, with enough warning to organize a complete, orderly evacuation. How they knew? No one has established, and where they went is equally unclear. No record exists anywhere in the Mediterranean of a large group of refugees arriving from Santorini during this period. Several thousand people walked out of that city and disappeared into history without a trace. 7 cities, 7 questions without clean answers, 18 levels with no construction records, 1 million cubic meters of missing rock. Basalt churches carved faster than the physics of hand tools allows. A buried monument beneath the world's most visited archaeological site. Every one of these cities has an official explanation, sometimes convincing, sometimes barely. But when you look at all 7 together, a pattern emerges. Scale that doesn't match the claimed era, technology that runs ahead of the official timeline, missing construction debris and missing historical records. The ground keeps its secrets, and the deeper people dig, the more questions come up.